Shalom, 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 shalom. Right. All right. Shalom, 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 shalom. First and foremost, giving infinite praises, glory, and honor unto Yahawah, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, QADASH, giving double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone and Shalom, and salutation to all you sincere Akim across the four winds, pushing this truth with sincerity of heart. I'm your fellow servant, Kasama Gun from the DC camp, coming at you through the spirit and power of Yahawah by Hashem, Yahushua by Hashem, Wahakudash for the elect. Now, this lesson, the lesson is basically titled for the realm. Basically, the realm, speaking of the kingdom of Israel. All right, as you should already know, right? It's 2026. We should already know the real Israelites are indeed the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. All right, we are the 12 tribes of Israel. Um, in captivity in Babylon for going on like 500 years now. So, but as of late, dating back to the 60s, there's been an awakening through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Shemel Shah, and men of the Lord have arisen. All right. Some men, are prophets, and others are just helps and just common Israelites that are walking up to this gospel. And, you know, the thing is that when you come into this gospel now, as you understand who you are, you have to understand, okay, what are you fighting for? All right. Because clearly you have Israelites that are awakened. They know that they're Israelites, but they back in the world, right? They still attracted to the Babylonian lifestyle. When I say Babylonian lifestyle, I'm referring to the U.S. Right? The United States is known in the Bible as the virgin daughter of Babylon. So this lifestyle here is very, very I'm not going to use the word exciting. It's seducing. All right, it's a lifestyle that's seducing to the flesh. But once you awaken to your nationality, to your path, your lot, who you are, and everything, you need to understand there's something to fight for. So we're going to get into that. All right, and once your mind is basically focused on what you need to fight for, everything becomes a lot clearer, and the path towards the kingdom, towards the realm, all right, becomes a lot more clear. All right, so that's what we're going to get into today. All right, because what do we fight for? Basically, we fight for the realm. All right, that's what we fight for. That's why you see, I've got the image right here from Menatazar Banyamyan. I guess that's some good AI stuff. You know what I'm saying? Some pretty good AI stuff because you have to be reminded what we fight for. Because it gets hard, it gets tough out here, man. The trials and tribulations don't stop. Satan is constantly getting on brothers, getting at brothers' weaknesses, constantly putting you behind the eight ball. And sometimes, it's not that you forget, but sometimes you get into a mindset where, you don't apply yourself the way that you should, because you need to be reminded what you're fighting for. All right? And this is critical. And this is why this is really going for men, the men of Israel. All right. This is not for the women of Israel, because it is not the job of the Israelite woman, all right, to fight the good fight of faith. Like, this is a job for the kingdom, all right, which is the domicile of men. All right. So now what we want to do, and when I say for the women to fight a good fight of faith, you know what I mean. The women are supposed to be faithful, but we talking about the fight. We talking about striving for the truth. We talking about teaching. We talking about preparing for the possibility of all kinds of shit happening. All right, the kingdom of the Most High is resides with men first and foremost. Now, when you look up on the realm, all right, and you know me, like I'm always like I like movie shows about warfare anyway. So that's why I use terminology such as the realm, because it really drives the point home. So now when you go to Edom Online, You look up the word realm, it says kingdom, domain, under sovereign, royal jurisdiction. See, now, right now, we're not sovereign, all right? We're in captivity. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we are in captivity. We all have numbers, all right? We are looked at in the eyes and the pockets of the Rothschilds in the algorithm. Let me use the word properly. In the algorithm of the Rothschilds, they don't really know us by name. They know us by numbers, social security numbers. All right. So when they type, that's how they look at us with cattle. All right. You have our royal jurisdiction, which we're not under a royal jurisdiction. All right. We are under some type of technocracy, which is a rulership through technology. All right. Mixed in with democracy and all types of weird ass philosophies, right? It says real may variance. All right. So it's kingdom. All right. The word kingdom means the domicile of kings. All right, the domicile of kings. That's what kingdom means. So we fight for the realm. So let's get into what it actually, some details of what it means to fight for the realm. All right, and this is very interesting. When you see these ancient movies, and not just the movies, historical events. All right, because a lot of these movies are built on historical events and men that lay down their lives for something that was bigger than them. All right, and that's a concept. It's an honorable concept, and honor is something that really men are supposed to have, but we don't live in an age of honor. That's why people don't really give a damn. Everybody's a goddamn individual. Everybody really just fighting for themselves. But in Israel, beginning with the elect, we understand we fight for something greater than the individual. Now it says fighting for the realm, all right, in spiritual context. All right. In spiritual context means engaging in invisible, non-physical warfare. All right. So it's engaging in an invisible, non-physical warfare to defend against evil forces that influence human life. So in this case, yes. So we are engaged in an invisible, non-physical warfare because although we are captive, physically captive, we know that the enemy is really, it's a spiritual force that we're fighting. All right, you got the spiritual demon Satan. Of course, you have his counterparts on earth, Edom, Esau, and yes, you have physical individuals either doing or trying to do physical things, right? Doing things that can physically affect you, but yet there's two grounds when it comes to fighting, for the realm. You have the physical fight, which we're not in that time yet, but then you have the spiritual fight, which we're going to get into that. How everything that happens to you, you cannot be impulsive. We're going to get into that. You cannot be impulsive in this gospel when people mess with you. Because I've recently been in situations where, some nigga, he had demons on him driving by, and I guess he felt like we were, because it was traffic. He felt like a couple of us was clogging up the lane, so he's just driving by, just cussing everybody out. Yeah, you bitch ass. I'm looking at him like, what the fuck? And then I wanted to kind of get impulsive, but then the spirit kind of quickly reminded me, like, well, that can escalate into something totally different. When we can get into a whole nother situation, right? And you understand that if you fight for the realm, you fight for something greater than you, the individual. You have to take these seemingly carnal battles into the spiritual realm, because you want to dictate where you fight so you can win the fight. Don't let the enemy dictate where you're going to fight, because he's always going to choose a setting where you're going to lose. But once you take the fight to, as a matter of fact, we're going to keep reading because we're going to get into that. That was when it's very, very important. Now it says engaging in invisible, non-physical warfare to defend against evil forces that influence human life, relationships, and nation. All right, so we fight for our nation. All right, and we influence Hebrew Israelite lives, relationships. It involves using faith, prayer, fasting, and biblical authority to enforce a victory that believers believe YAHAWASHI has already won over evil forces. All right, so now check this out. Now, this is where we really get into the meat. Now, it says understanding the true enemy. So, what do you, when you fight for the realm, right? You say you fight for YAHAWASHI's namesake, right? That's what it means to fight for the realm. All right, that means you fight is what? You fight for faith, which is the power. You fight for faith, family, resources. That's what it's all about. All right. Being a Hebrew Israelite in its journey, it's about fighting for faith, family, resources. Okay. It says understanding the true enemy. The battle is rarely just physical. It is a spiritual battle against principalities and powers, not against people. All right. So we don't fight. First of all, before I even get there, let me because I kind of jumped the gun a little bit. So let me go to just counting the calls first. This is Luke chapter 14, verse 25, discipleship tested. It says, and there went great multitudes with him, and he turned and said unto them, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. Now, when you read the scripture, it can seem contradictory to fighting for faith and family, right? Because if you're fighting for faith, family, and resources, why would then the Lord tell you to hate the family? Well, because the fight for the realm is spiritual. So therefore, the relationships are spiritual relationships. And that means that the individuals that you're supposed to be close to and fight for are individuals in Israel that are spiritual, that have the doctrine and the truth. And if they don't have those things, therefore, they're not truly family. They're a carnal family, all right? And we don't fight for the carnal realm. The carnal realm belongs to Esau, Edom, all right? The so-called white man, the devil that the Bible speaks of. Your so-called family members operate under the system and the jurisdiction of the spiritual demon Satan. So therefore, by default, they become your enemy in his gospel. And whosoever doth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. All right. Verse 28, for which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he has sufficient to finish? All right. So you have to count the cost, understand what you're fighting for. All right. This is a great opportunity, and we need to understand, the gravity of what we are a part of. So understanding the true enemy. So you have to understand the true enemy. So we have precepts. This is 2 Thessalonians 2 and 7. I'm going to start as a matter of fact. As a matter of fact, let me start. All right, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. It says, Lord, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. All right, so in every fight, if you fight for the kingdom, you have oppositions. All right, so in this case, who is the enemy? All right, who is the true enemy? The true adversary, the person, the people, the things that are truly standing between you and the kingdom of heaven. All right, because we're not going to get peace until the kingdom is established. But before we get to the kingdom, we're going to have to fight. And the fight that we fight is a spiritual warfare. So there's criteria of how to fight. All right, that's why Paul said, fight the good fight of faith. We don't just fight. You need to know what you're fighting for, and you need to know how to fight. All right. It says, verse 4, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called the Most High. So you need to look around and be like, who is that individual that is constantly exalting himself above all that the Most High has created? The individual that goes against nature. The individual that has a whole system based on going against the Most High's laws, statutes, commandments. All right. Literally living in Esau's kingdom, all his laws that he has is damn near as if he read the Bible and looked at all the 613 laws and said, well, he's going to have his 613 sins, basically. So all his laws is based on the opposite of what the Most High's laws are. All right. So that's what his system is about. So and everything that the Lord has set up, right? He's going contrary, to the nature of humans, to the nature of animals. He's splicing animals with human beings, right? He's splicing seeds, right? Controlling the weather. So he's doing all these different things. So the scripture is telling you, you need to understand, since you want to fight for the realm, the kingdom, you need to understand who your enemy is. All right. You need to wake up to this. It says, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God, that he is the power. All right. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things, and now ye know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. So back then, it wasn't time to fully be revealed. All right. Now, it's not, the Edomites, for the most part, Rome was run by the Edomites, and Rome had occupied, Israel. Israel was a state of Rome. And Jake damn well knew that Esau was an enemy. Right? They knew that we knew the history. Right? But what Jake didn't understand, the majority of Israelites, right? Because the disciples understood, because the disciples were just a cut above, right? They're, part of the election, selected to be evangelists and preachers and prophets. But they knew that, after Rome, we were going to have to, link up with Esau again in the end times. And it was going to be a problem because he is the true enemy on the physical realm that we must defeat at all costs. All right. And how do we defeat Esau? It's not in a one-on-one combat. How you defeat Esau is by destroying his lies, is by using the truth to destroy his systematical lies, his generational lies that he has upon the minds of our people. Verse 7, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. So the Heavenly Father is the one who is letting Esau rule on the earth. He's let him rule on the earth for going back to 800 years now. If you go as far back as the 1300, the Renaissance with the Beaujeu family, they've been running the show for a long time. The Lord has allowed that because Edom is the final villain. All right. It says, until he be taken out of the way. And also Esau needed more time because Esau now has set up a system. The heathens in the past, when they ruled, they used to rule for like 40 years, 50 years, 80 years. It's just not enough to have a proficient system that can enslave the whole earth. That's why that's one of the reasons why the Lord had to give Esau 800 years, because he had to learn from all the mistakes that he made in the past. It's ancient Rome. He had to learn from all the mistakes that the Babylonians made, the Persians, the Greeks, and he had to learn everybody's mistakes, and he had to come up with a plan, right? A new order, an order that would never be taken down. And he understood that Satan told him basically that via technology that he would be able to establish a wicked, evil kingdom that would last forever. All right. And 800 years feels like forever, but it's not forever. Right. So that 800 years has given our enemy, Esau, great confidence. So he doesn't believe that he can lose. Verse 8, it says, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. So first, the spirit of his mouth is destroying the lies, right? Is understanding who our enemy is and his systematical lies, so we can be removed spiritually and mentally from his kingdom, his ways, all right? Because they're very seducing, and they're very seducing to the flesh, which also is the one of the primary ultimate enemies, which is your own flesh. All right. Verse 9, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Now let's go to the next precept. This is Job 9:24. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? All right. This is a rhetorical question. So who runs the earth? All right. Who runs the earth is clear. I mean, the person who has the empire, who's able to go into people's lands and bomb the shit out of them, and not be and not and be called just and be justified in invading people's lands and blowing them up and stealing their resources. They're justified as the good guy, but then when you bomb them or you attack them, you're called a terrorist. You know, you put on a terrorist list. So you have a person who has the ability to kind of do that, right? A fork tongue, a lying piece of shit, right? It's who? It's the pointy shoes, right? It's the pointy shoes. When I say pointy shoes, it's the attire of the politician. All right. And the politician is it begins and it ends with Edom Esau, the devil that the Bible speaks of. Now let's go back to the number 2 key aspect of fighting for the realm is the goal is control and allegiance. All right. Subtitle: the goal is control and allegiance. It is a battle for the minds, hearts, and souls of individuals and nation. All right. So we battling for the minds, hearts, and souls of our people, man. Us, the hopeful elect that have awakened, beginning with our apostles and elders. We understand that this is what the fight is all about. The kingdom is made up of what? The kingdom is not just one Israelite. All right. The kingdom is made up of 144 at the top. YAHAWASHI establishing 144 at the top, and then the remaining of the 1/3 is multiple men. So you have to fight to awaken other prophets. You have to fight to awaken other warriors, other evangelists. All right. This is what it's all about. This is how you defeat your enemy. So let's go back to subtitle. It says the goal is control and allegiance. Salakia. The goal is control and allegiance. It is a battle for the mind, hearts, and souls of individuals and nations, often manifesting in the physical world through tragedies like slavery, right? 2/3, the eye shall be evil against that neighbor, right? The atrocious killings, there's murder that's going on in the nation, the level of adultery that's going on in our nation. It's all because the minds and the hearts and souls of the majority of Israelites have been captured. They're hostage. They're spiritual, mental hostages. All right, we were spiritually, mentally hostages, right? And then we got delivered from that spiritually through the spirit and power of YAHAWAH through the teachings of our masters, elders. It says often manifested in the physical world through tragedies, illnesses, or personal struggles. All right, we definitely go through personal struggles, but those personal struggles, is what also brings us together. All right, we bond as brothers in pain and sorrow, and tears and sadness. All right, this is how we build bonds in true Israel. And this is how the realm is being built. All right, it's being built through pain and suffering. All right, we understand each other through pain. We don't understand each other through nothing else in this gospel. Through pain and suffering. All right. One of the adversaries that we have, besides Edom Esau, is of course the flesh. We can't skip that. So I have a few precepts. This is Romans chapter 7. I'm gonna start at 4. It says, "Wherefore, my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law by the body of a Mashiach, that ye should be married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit unto the Most High." It says, "For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sins which were by the law, they work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death." Right. So you have You have to identify. We talked about an adversary, identifying the enemy, which is, we just talked about Esau, Edom, but then you have the flesh. And what is the flesh? The flesh is not talking about your actual skin. All right, you have to understand that when the scripture speaks about the flesh, when you get mad and you're like, oh man, that's the flesh and that's carnal, it's not referring to your actual skin. Your skin is just really, your skin is just elements, made out of water and earth. The flesh is talking about carnal thoughts. All right. Now you could say those carnal thoughts are embedded with the elements because these elements are carnal elements, right? Earth and water. Now, but it's really the thoughts that come with the flesh. That's really what it means to be in the flesh. It says, "For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sins which were by the law did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death." All right. It says, "But now we are delivered from the law, that being dead wherein we were held, that we should serve in newness of spirit and not in the oldness of the letter." All right. You already know what it means by we're dead, delivered from the law. All right. Because scripture tells you 7:1, Romans 7:1, the law shall have dominion over a man as long as he lives. As a matter of fact, let's read that right quick. Romans 7:1, "Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law has dominion over a man as long as he liveth." So that would be contradictory to verse 6 if you didn't have an understanding. All right. So we are actually protected. It's not that we delivered from the actual law. What Paul is saying, because you got to read between the line, Paul is saying we are delivered from the judgment that comes from the law. But he would have already, the reason why he didn't detail it like that, because the Spirit didn't want it to be detailed like that, so that the Holy Spirit would have you read between the lines. So without the Holy Spirit, you would not understand what he just said. It would seem like a contradiction. Verse 7, "What shall we say then? Is the law sin? Most High forbid. Nay, I had not known sin, but by the law, for I had not known lust, except the law has said, thou shalt not covet." All right, so we're just going to jump down to the main, because you can read that whole chapter. It's a beautiful chapter. Verse 23, it says, "But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members. O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death?" So right now, he's not talking about Edom, Esau. He's talking about his own self. He's talking about the negative aspect. Because remember, within all of us, there's light and there's darkness. Being in the flesh is that darkness that's within you. All right. So Paul saying, well, I am, well, what I am basically is that light. That's what I want. That's who I am. But then I have this darkness within me. Who's going to deliver me from this darkness? All right. And any man of the Lord, hopeful elect, who's sincere, is well aware of his light and his darkness. If not, then you listen. Either the Lord is going to show you, and if he doesn't show you, then you're not part of your elect. Plain and simple. All right. I thank the Most High through whom I shall YAHAWASHI our Lord. So then with the mind, I myself serve the law of the Most High, but with the flesh, the law of sin. All right. Again, it's that light and darkness. Now let's go back, because I had to make sure that we established that one of the enemies is the flesh. It's Edom, Esau, and it's also the flesh. Now we can go to step 2, which is the goal is control and allegiance, the battle for the minds and hearts. That's why I have these precepts here lined up. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse, I'm going to start at 12. Make sure I got it right. Yep. All right, I'm going to start at 12. It says, "Seeing then that we have such hope, we use great plainness of speech, and not as Moses, which put a veil over his face, that the children of Israel could not steadfastly look to the end of that which is abolished." Meaning, the Lord hid secrets from Israel back in the wilderness, because it wasn't time. All right, it wasn't time for Israel to receive those secrets. So Moses were aware of how this thing was going to end, and the Lord basically told him to put a veil, meaning don't say shit to them. All right, it says Verse 14, but their minds were blinded. All right, remember, this is a battle of minds, hearts, and souls. But their minds were blinded, for until this day remaineth the same veil and taken away in the reading of the Old Testament, which veil is done away in Hamashiach. So until this day, you have the majority of Israel that still have a veil, right? They just cannot understand what this thing is all about, even when they wake up to their nationality. Because back then, Israel already knew who they were, but yet they didn't have the understanding. So just waking up to the fact that you're an Israelite is not enough for you to enter into the kingdom. You must understand what comes with being an Israelite. What are you fighting for? All right. And if you're just fighting for yourself, then, like they say in the world, you've lost the plot, basically. It says, verse 15, but even unto this day, when Moses is read, meaning when the Old Testament is read, the veil is upon their heart. Nevertheless, when they shall turn to the Lord, the veil shall be taken away. Meaning, when your spirit is turned to the Lord, and that can happen, that happens through men, through the teaching of men that also would turn to the Lord. All right. It said, nevertheless, when it shall turn to the Lord, the veil shall be taken away. Now the Lord is that spirit. And where the spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty of what? That freedom from the captive mindset. That's the slave mind. All right. Because you have Israelites that call themselves Israelites, but they still read the scriptures and see the world and move in the world through the lenses of Master Edom Esau. They haven't separated from the tendencies that they were taught when they came out of their mother's womb, when they were born into the matrix. It says, but we all with open face. You see that? It says, but we all. That's called allegiance. It's not just, Paul didn't say, well, I with an open face beholding. He said, but we all. He's speaking about the elect. But we all with open face beholding as in a glass the glory of the Lord are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. That's why you have, again, one of the key aspects of what are you fighting for when you call yourself fighting for the kingdom or fighting for the realm is what? Is the goal is control and allegiance. It is a battle for the minds and hearts and souls of individuals and nations, often manifesting physical world through tragedies, illnesses, and personal struggles. That's how we bond, through tragedies, illnesses, or personal struggles. All right. I'm pretty sure I had another one as well, if I'm not mistaken. 1:7, I got this. All right. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 4. First, let's start it. I'm gonna start at 3. It says, but if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world, Satan, has blinded the minds of them which believe not. Those are the 2/3. Lest the light of the glorious gospel of Mashiach, Yahushua, who is the image of the Most High, should shine upon them. All right, so those are the souls that could not be redeemed. All right, wicked Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. All right, they are unredeemable. There's no remedy for their souls on this side. Verse 4, for we preach not ourselves, but Hamashiach Yahushua the Lord, and ourselves your servants, for Hamashiach Yahushua's sake. For the Most High, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, has shined in our hearts. You see, and this is an emphasis, and I emphasize on this because that's the key. It's not a one-person battle, man. You're not fighting by yourself. That's why the Lord always talked about communication and a brotherhood and being together, because we're not just being together just for the sake of being together. Like when we are together, whether you know it or not, it's camaraderie, right? It's that sense of I'm not alone. Right? You might have your lonely times, right? Because we're very lonely. Don't get it mistaken. We are very, very lonely in this fight, but we're not alone. And so when you're around brothers, you communicate, right? It's that knowing that you have allegiance. And that's very powerful because you're able to win in your own individual struggles, remembering that you might be lonely, but you're not alone. That's why, Paul emphasized in these words, he didn't say him or I, he said our. All right, for the Most High who commanded the light to shine out of darkness has shined in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of the Most High in the face of Mashiach Yahushua. But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of the Most High and not of us. We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. See, again, it's not a coincidence that he emphasized on we, because Paul understood, he knew what he was fighting for. He understood the power of what allegiance, all right, being together, having a front, a wall, all right. So he understood that. That's the reason why, the scriptures were written the way that they were written. All right, so now let's go to the next one. I believe the next one is the next key aspect of fighting for the realm is active engagement. All right, it says active engagement versus passivity. Yeah, man. I mean, this is, yeah, man. And listen, the elders already, this is why the elders always get on us, and they get on bros. It's because they understand this active engagement versus passivity. You cannot be passive in the gospel when it comes to fighting. You have to be actively engaged. It's part of what you're fighting for. You can't say, "Well, I'm fighting for the kingdom," and then you're passive. Those two things don't match. So therefore, your heart's not really in it. It says believers are called not passive. That's why we talk. The apostles put in, get your lessons done. Study, get your lessons done, teach. Be active. All right, not passive in this struggle, moving from a victim mindset to a victor mindset by standing in the spirit. Now, this right here, man, listen, easier said than done. All right, I'm gonna be the first one to acknowledge, to put this out there, man. Right, easier said. So I can just give me a second. All right, so this part right here, this is powerful. This is really when you level up, right? Because there's always multiple levels, right? But like leveling up, like when you're able to adapt this mindset. So I get up. I'm trying to highlight it. I ran out of space, anyways. But when you're able to adapt this particular mindset, moving from a victim mindset to a victor mindset by standing in the spirit. So when you are actually, because we are victims, because we are hostages, right? We're hostages. We're literally owned by Edom, Esau, and the nations. But yet you have to fight, and you have to fight. You have to fight because first you don't want to be a slave, right? And you have to fight as somebody who really wants to win. And knowing that Yahawashi has already won, you get into the mindset of, although I'm behind enemy's line, I fight with the vigor of a man who is sure that this is gonna turn into my favor, right? Even when shit is bleak out here, man, like you can't be on some like, damn, I'm fucked up. Oh, I'm doomed. Like I was saying at camp, there's certain words that brothers should not be uttering out of their mouth. Because the Lord spoke about the things that come out of your mouth is what defiles you. Like it kills your spirit when you down and out and you say shit like, I'm doomed. Oh, I'm fucked up. Oh, I'm done. Now you can say I'm down bad, that's cool, like, but if you say you down bad, like it's still always how you kind of say it, right? Like you say I'm down bad, but that I'm down bad now, but I'm gonna get up. Or you get to a point where you just don't say, man, I'm down bad. I'm just, hey man, listen, we good out here, man. Like, we're gonna find a way. And that's when you really truly get to a whole another level, when you're able to adapt this mentality. All right, so I'm gonna read this again. Active engagement versus passivity. It says Believers are called to be active, not passive in the struggle, moving from a victim mindset to a victor mindset by standing in the spirit. So you got to stand in the spirit. You know how Jake like to say you got to stand on too, right? You got to stand on it, stand on it. Like that's true. You got to stand on it. You got to stand on the spirit. Let me see. Now I had precepts forward. Make sure I got it right. Hopefully they're not all over the place. Come on, man. John 10:10. I got that. Let me see. Revelation. Yeah. This is Revelation chapter 3, verse 15. It says, I know that works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou were cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. All right, so let me see if I can read this in the CSB right quick. Revelation 3 and 15, it says, so because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I'm going to vomit you out of my mouth, meaning I'm going to get rid of you, right? Basically, the Lord said, I'm going to remove your spirit, my spirit from you. So you're no longer going to have that drive, that want to be in the kingdom. Or he might just put a different spirit where he's going to have a spirit lie to you and how to get to the kingdom. Because there's a way to get to the kingdom. And he might put a lying spirit on you that makes you believe that there's another way to get to the kingdom. And then, when that's the case, you're basically, you're through. It says, so because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I am going to vomit you out of my mouth. Verse 17, for you say, I'm rich, I have become wealthy and need nothing. And you don't realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. So you believe that you're good. There's a part of you that one of the reasons why you kind of, you go months, weeks, and months, without making lessons, without being active, is because in the back of your mind or your subconscious, it may not say you are rich, but it definitely says you're good. To a certain extent, your subconscious believes that you're good. Because if you really believe that you are in between life and death, and you understand the seriousness of the matter at hand, you would not be going weeks and months and not be active in the gospel, right? You would do everything you can, even if it kills you, to perform to the best of your ability. All right. So another one, this is Romans chapter 12, verse 16. It says, having then gifts different according to the grace that is given to us, whether prophecy, let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith, or ministry, let us wait on our ministry, or he that teacheth on teaching, or he that exhorteth on exhortation, he that giveth, let him do it with simplicity, he that ruleth with diligence, he that showeth mercy with cheerfulness. Verse 9, it says, let love be without dissimulation, abhor that which is evil, cleave to that which is good. Be kindly affectionate one to another with brotherly love and honor, preferring one another. These are the characteristics of what it means to be active in the gospel. It's not just going out in the highways and the edges and all making your lessons, right? There's other things that you have to do, right? So Paul is kind of getting into that. Be kindly affectionate one to another with brotherly love and honor, preferring one another. All right. This is how you really show brotherhood, preferring one another. When you start believing that, yeah, man, I'm better than this guy, man, you off. You're way off. My mentality, how when I see certain, I know brothers, young brothers, they, and I tell them in their face, man, listen, you have traits that I wish you have traits, you have, natural spiritual traits that I wish I had, 15, 16, 17, 18 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wish, just, giving them comfort, like, yeah, man, like, I wish I had this. It took me years to, to get to this level, and you already got this. And, so that's kind of what it means. It says, not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, So you can't be a sloth in business. You have to be active. It says fervent in spirit, serving the Lord YAHAWASHI, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing instant in prayer, distributing to the necessity of saints, giving to hospitality. All right. Bless them which persecute you, bless and curse not. So it tells you different things, different ways. I mean, there's more, but that you basically got the gist of it for the sake of time. So let's get to the next one. It says using spiritual weapons. Now this one right here, man, this right here was pretty good because it says check this out. It says using spiritual weapons. It says the fight is won using spiritual, not physical means. Key tools include intense prayer, fasting, standing on scripture, and worship. So it's let me see. I want to I want to make sure that because there was another thing that they said. Let's see, the battle above. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna add this one as well because they kind of go together, right? So first you have using spiritual weapons, which I'm gonna bring precepts to that. For that, it says on the fight is one using spiritual, not physical means. Key tools include intense prayer, fasting, standing on scripture, and worship. So you have to understand that prayer and fasting is just a part of it, man. I mean, we don't have power in this realm individually like that, but the Most High will lend us power in certain aspects. He would do things for us. All right. All right. So this is 2 Corinthians 10:4. As you know, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the Most High to the pulling down of strongholds. Strongholds is what? It's doctrines. Doctrines of devils. All right. The Babylonian mentality. All right. So you have niggas that fuck with you. You have these demons that f with you. And like I stated earlier in the lesson, being in a situation where, if I responded with that carnal energy, it could have escalated, you know what I'm saying? It's talking about road rage and shit like that. It could have escalated pretty bad because I can sense the demons on that nigga, man. And it's like, listen, shit happens, right? But you really gotta be spiritual. But that was that was what it was, because it's just, I probably never see the nigga again, right? Because it's kind of like road shit. But you have people at your job, people in your family, everywhere you go as a man of the Lord. There's always, every new job you get, new place you go to, there's always certain souls, one or two souls that your destiny was to meet them, and their destiny is to meet you and become your adversary. So Satan is going to hop on them. They're going to gravitate. It doesn't matter what the fuck you do. They're going to gravitate towards you, and they're going to vex your spirit, trying to get you to get carnal and shit like that. That's happened to me every effing job that I've had ever since I've been in the truth. So at this point, I've already expect that. Like, I can come to a new job, a new place, and I could already pinpoint. I'm like, yeah, it's him. Oh yeah, it's her. Because it's been happening to me for so long. So I'm like, okay, it's her. So I'm like, okay, that's an individual that I'm gonna have to just, keep my cool and take this fight in the spirit realm where they do their thing. I can't go at them like that. I have to I gotta go to the lab, gotta pray fast and sing curses on them. You know what I'm saying? And constantly pray and sing curses on them. Because that's where I can win. Because you don't fight wars to lose. You got to pick your fights and only fight to win. Right? Because I've had, even on a carnal sense, I've had dudes say, hey, man, let's go in the alley and so I'm like, why are we going to the alley, bro? You don't get to decide where this thing is about to go down. I decide where this thing, and I'm gonna pick a place that's more suited for my skills. That's more suited to where I can have the advantage. You know what I'm saying? You want me to go out here, you want me to go and do something, you want me to put myself in a situation where you're going to win, I'm going to lose. And that's just not how you fight. So in this case, we take it to the spirit realm where they have no chance. All right? Because they don't go at home and pray to Jesus, about you. They don't do that. They don't even go at home and pray to Satan. They just automatons, man. So you going to pray to the Lord is going to deal with them. Right? Because at the end of the day, we don't fight to correct these Babylonians. They're gonna be destroyed. They're all gonna be put to death. And ultimately the remnant of them, they're gonna be, destroyed by thermonuclear missiles. It's very important, to understand that dynamic. Ephesians 6 and 11, it says, put on the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Now, the people that you really want to put your hands around, you want to snap, if you want to snap some necks, the people that you really, really want to do that to, right, is the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the big dogs. But guess what? The Lord knows that that's exactly what you would do if you were in their presence. So therefore, you won't even get the opportunity to be close to those jokers. All right. So the man that's in front of you is not really your enemy. He's a full total demonic possession. So you have to find a way to be cool, calm, collected. Take the fight, to the realm, to the place where you can win, which is spiritually, and then you will surely win. Because I've defeated all my enemies in these different plantations that came at me when I finally put my ego to the side and decided to say, you know what, man, this ain't, yeah, I gotta go to the Lord for this. You know what I'm saying? So let's see. The last one we have, it says using spiritual weapons to fight is one, using spiritual, not physical means. Key tools include intense prayer, fasting. Fasting is necessary. And also a couple of words on fasting. Fasting is not just not drinking water and not eating. All right. That is a part of it. That's the basics. The basic aspect of fasting is not drinking and not eating. Now you have multiple different fasts, and you can water fast. Then you also have the fasting of the actual things that you need to get rid of. All right. If you need to detox, fast from social media, that's fasting. All right. Whatever is being a distraction to your spirit. All right, because we're in a spiritual warfare. So whatever it is that's being a distraction, you have to remove it and fast. Is it a woman? Fast from her. Meaning, hey, listen, get busy. Get busy to the point where even if you're not busy, fake it like you're busy, man. And tell her, hey, man, listen, whoa, don't see her for a week, man. Say, hey, listen, I'm busy, man. We're gonna next week. Because if she is the reason why you're struggling to perform, then you need to fast from her, man. You need to fast from anything that gets in your way of the kingdom, and then you got to stand on scriptures. It says the battle above mentality. The battle above mentality. It said rather than fighting at the level of feelings or immediate physical problems, this is what I actually was talking about. Rather than fighting at the level of feelings or immediate physical problems, the snake line, this means raising the conflict to the spiritual level where God's power is supreme. So whatever conflict, and that's what I liked about this, man. I'm like, damn, yeah. Raise the level, right? It says raise the conflict to the spiritual level, because the conflict that you're going through and the individuals and the demons and all that, it's on this physical level where you're going to lose. They want you to fight where you're going to lose. So what you want to do, you want to raise the conflict to the spiritual level where you're going to win, because it says where God's power is supreme. And when you fast and pray, you send them curses, it's going to work. Now, it may not work the next day, but I promise you it's going to work. You know what I'm saying? I promise you it's going to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got bodies in the spirit realm, brother. Listen, I got bodies. You know what I'm saying? People that just did not want to leave me alone, bro. Like, they wanted me to do something stupid so I can end up, in a place where basically my career as a prophet would be gone, man. We talking about doing some long time, bro. And then, you realize, nah, man, that's not, what do you gain off of like ending one person, one carnal individual? These people are nothing. You know what I'm saying? They're nothing. They're not worth you taking their lives. There's nothing like that, bro. Pray to the Lord, and the Lord would, he'll get rid of them. He'll work the situation out for you. All right. Why? Because we got to keep our eyes on the prize, man. Keep our eyes on the prize. And the prize is none other than the realm, man. It's a kingdom. Like I said, it's faith, family, and resources, man. We fighting for YAHAWASHI's namesake. We fighting for our family, man, the election. All right. The 1/3 beginning with 144,000 men, women, and children, and then be fighting for them resources, baby. The resources which consist of land, slaves, cattle, all that, man. All right, that's what the realm is about: faith, family, and resources. Now let's get to pretty sure we at the end of this thing, so let's finish with Second Ezra chapter 7, and we're gonna start at 6. Second Ezra chapter 7, verse 6. There is also another thing: a city is built and set upon a broad field, and is full of all good things. The entrance thereof is narrow and is set in a dangerous place to fall. All right, that's the kingdom of heaven. That's the realm. So like as if there were a fire on the right hand, and on the left a deep water. All right. It says, and one only path between them both, even between the fire and the water, so small that there could but one man go there at once. All right. So yeah, it's basically there's certain situations, man, where you're gonna have to go through, and brothers can't help you with, but brothers can, in the sense that being around brothers will help you, right? There's certain situations where brothers won't be able to personally help you, but being around brothers will help you, and knowing that you have brothers will help you. Remember, one of the key aspects was what? Control. It says allegiance, right? Bonds through tragedies, illness, and personal struggles. It says verse. Let's get back. Verse 8. All right, and one only path between them both, even between the fire and the water, so small that they could but one man go there at once. If this city now were given into a man for an inheritance, if he never shall pass the danger set before it, how shall he receive his inheritance? All right, it's great danger. I mean, we really on the tightrope. All right, we on the tightrope. Like I said, just that situation that happened with me on that road rage, Negro. That's the type of shit, especially in 2026. End of the world spirits moving around. That's the type of shit that can turn up into a whole an ugly scene right there, bro. So controlling your mouth, controlling your spirit, understanding what you're fighting for. Don't make decisions that niggas make and end up, being thrown in a big house for 20 years when we're about to be out. We're about to be out of here, and Lord willing, maybe a year, 2 or 3, a couple of, like that's not. We don't move like the majority of like the 2/3, man. All right, because niggas fight for a better America. So ask yourself, what do you fight for? Are you fighting for the kingdom of heaven? For you fighting for the realm, or are you fighting for a better Babylon? All right. So now let's go to verse 10. And I said, it is so, Lord. Then said he unto me, even so also is Israel's portion. All right. Because for their sake I made the world, and when Adam transgressed my statutes, then was decreed that now is done. Right. So through Adam, which is YAHAWASHI, right? The struggle, man. The struggle started with Adam, but YAHAWASHI is Adam, and the struggle is going to end with YAHAWASHI's return, man. Plain and simple. He is the Alpha and the Omega, meaning the beginning and the end. But in between that, that's where we gotta do what we gotta do, man. All right. We have to fight this good fight of faith. And that is the lesson for the day. All right. And I know it's some beautiful precepts, but we're running out of time. So unfortunately I can't read them. But I see beautiful precepts. Shalom to you brothers and a few sisters that do listen. Hopefully you were edified as well as I was. The title of the lesson was for the realm, all right, for the kingdom. So with that, I'm saying, call halayim like YAHAWAH HASHAM, YAHWASHI HASHAM, QADASH, giving double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and shalom and salutation to all you sincere Akim across the four winds, pushing this truth with sincerity of heart. Kasamagan from the DC camp. Shalom.